Hello everyone, Alfred Johnson with the Faith Action Ministry Alliance. Glad to come back to you and talk to you one more time. Hey listen, we have some amazing videos that are coming up right now that we're going to be talking to you right now about. It's about the garden model. It's what FAMA does in local communities to share the gospel of Christ and to help people become their best self through faith in Jesus Christ. Just beautiful stuff. Now, these videos that are following, these are conversations with some other saints at the New Testament Worship Center. You are going to hear a series of ideas coming from these people, flowing from these saints, that help to clarify what the garden model is. Listen very intently. Let your heart be filled with the potential of what can happen in low-income areas when we treat it lovingly, like a garden. Listen up. Apart from the surveys, we're going to make mention of that again in terms of what FAMA does as a whole. I constantly want the group to know, if nothing else, the group to know. By the way, the paper that you have in your hand is because I want to get some of your ideas. You know, I tell you what I've learned over these years, boys, that people are loaded with treasures. And the very ones that you underestimate are the very ones that would come up with some solution to a big problem. And you didn't even know that you didn't even know it. They somehow had an answer. And so I'm going to be wanting you to please, as we're going to go into some moments of reflection, and please use that pen and paper, write down some notes. Everybody has a pen? Everybody has that? Pen and paper? She doesn't want to write. Anybody else needs a pen? Okay, good stuff. Good stuff. Of course, the goal of everything we do here, the goal is to raise up an army of believers that evangelize. That is what we do. FAMA is nothing more than raising up an army of good. God's army. That's it. That's it. Connecting the body of Christ together, making certain that everyone's equipped and trained, and then unleashed on the community. Okay? So we're not able to carry on as we have because the culture has changed. Before, we were able to have pretty much a church on every corner because 30, 20, 30, 40 years ago, people either were in church or they knew they were supposed to be in church. We're living in a generation now where that mindset isn't there anymore. That very mindset isn't there. So to have a church on every corner is now not sufficient. Now the believers have to get ready to directly engage the community and treat it like a garden. You're wanting to treat the community like you would treat a garden. Because you do know that it doesn't take any energy to grow a harvest of weeds. No. The weeds grow all by themselves. Amen, brother. If we do not give attention to the community garden, and there's a reason why God used the word be fruitful as it concerns humans in the beginning, our original mandate, you be fruitful, and then you multiply. There's a reason why he used the term fruitfulness. It's because both humans and then the human community is to be treated like a garden. And one more time, where there's not attention given to a garden, the weeds will inevitably grow. They're going to grow. If we do want some nice flowers or plants in the garden, then humans are required to put the energy in. Whatever you want to grow in the garden, you will have to put human energy and plant what you want in that garden. The garden will not grow what you want it to grow. It's almost like there's it's almost like the soil is more ready to yield thorns and thistles than it is the good stuff. Like there's a depravity in the soil. And the same thing goes for the humans out here. If we are not cultivating in them what is necessary, they are going to produce exactly what that ground produces out there, and they're going to do it like this. And so then when we complain about the ground, it doesn't make sense, does it? It doesn't make sense for a person to say, man, that ground is terrible out there. All it grows is a bunch of weeds. You look at your garden, man, my garden is growing weeds. All you're doing is testifying against who? If your garden has weeds in it, who are you testifying against? You're testifying against your own self. Man, my garden has a bunch of weeds in it. It's a terrible garden. And people who know better are going, because it's not the ground. The ground's going to do what the ground does. If you want the flowers there, you have to put the energy in. It's just the way it is, everybody. And Daddy made it that way, you know. If you want fresh fruit on your table even, it's going to take energy to put it there. Because rotten fruit, you don't have to put any energy into it.
Nope.
Put nothing into it. That fruit will grow. It'll die all by itself. But if you want living stuff, it means that human energy is going to have to be put into it. Or else it's just not going to happen. And remember one more time, the communities have to be treated that way. Like a garden. They have to be. If not, I'm telling you, we lose. And a garden means that personal attention and watchfulness. Literally, there needs to be, a whole group of people, not just pastors, because it's not just the garden's way big. You only have, like in this community, there's 850 homes. There are now 5 churches. There used to be 8. Well, that means that there's 5 pastors. For 800, it's not going to happen. They can't. Listen, it will wear them out to try to go door to door and keep an eye on everyone. Yeah. But there should be a more structured oversight of the community garden that involves everyone. A more structured oversight. Oh, pardon me. I almost broke your nose just then. Yeah, we put those black things on there and it keeps people from seeing in. Okay. So if there's bad characters outside, we can see them, but they're going to have a hard time seeing us. So yeah, we have to work on security with the school and so. But nonetheless, so one more time, the garden. Keep that model in mind. It's the garden model, where we have to treat the community that way. And every facet of the community that allows you to be involved with working the ground and working the soil, that's where you want to plug in. So evangelism has also, because we're not dealing with a society, one more time, that either knows they are supposed to be in church or they're in church. That's not what we're dealing with right now. Yep. So even how we used to evangelize on the streets is not sufficient anymore. Mm-hmm. The once in a while going out and even proclaiming out loud, not sufficient anymore. We now have to actually work the ground itself again. We're losing the culture is what's happening. So when you look politically, everything that's going on, like, what in the world is going on? These people have lost their minds. But where is that coming from? There's a whole half of the American society that likes that. Mm-hmm. And you're like, wait a minute, there's no way. There's no. Yes, they think it's this. These guys think that it's virtuous for us to recognize males who believe they're females to compete with females. Grown men competing with females, and they think that's virtuous. Yeah, but he thinks he's female. So you're going to have a full-grown man wrestling a female who wants to wrestle. A full-grown man wrestling with a female. Have you completely lost your... Now, don't get me wrong. Some females can put it on a man, but generally, some of y'all here look like... Okay, some of y'all look like y'all... Okay, but that's generally that's not what... But we're the culture, and we cannot expect the garden to produce the kind of fruit that we want, and then argue with the fruit of that weed. That flower is not a real flower. But they're celebrating it as if it is a bouquet. They are. Yeah. But you can't, there's no need to address the weed that way. It's not a bouquet. Yeah, but that weed thinks that it's flourishing and looking nice. Mm-hmm. You can't argue with that weed. If you try to argue with the weed, you're just going to waste your time. That's right. You're just going to waste your time politically. How many of you have actually convinced the person of the other party that you were right and they actually agreed upon hearing you? No. Not going to happen, people. We have a job to do to work the field. Now, as we end up demonstrating, we demonstrate the good. We overcome evil with good. We demonstrate it, and we show its productivity, and we show the advantage of friendship, and we show the advantage of love and reaching out in community, and we embrace people. We build our leverage. We build our social leverage. so that people trust us to speak into their lives. They are not going to be argued against and convinced. It is not going, believe me, you know your brother likes to argue. I will argue with this bench right here for hours, literally. Literally. Are you actually holding me up? All right, so we'll argue. The bench will say some stuff back at me, but I won't believe it. Okay, but listen, Johnsons are arguers. I have never been able to just flat out convince a Democrat. I know some of you are Democrats. Y'all pardon me. Y'all pardon me. Here I go. Who can help me with that? I'm talking just politically. I haven't been able to do it just straight up. I have had to use the leverage. I have had to use the leverage of my relationship. Hey, come on in. Come on in. I have had to use the leverage of relationships. Sign in if you would. And if you want to, go ahead and serve yourself back over there. Good stuff. I've had to use the leverage of relationship to be able to make that happen. If y'all know any of my spiritual sons, Antoine is now his mindset. He's a very robust thinker. Through the leverage of love and service to him and to his family, his trust, the trust factor, increased in his life concerning me. The leverage of that trust at least has them opening their ears.
That's awesome.
Then I now have the opportunity to just communicate, and they're not ready to fight me. They're not ready to fight. They're ready now to listen because of the leverage that I had gained through working with them. Out there in the field, it is exactly the same. If we're going to see any kind of cultural change occur, by the way, everybody, this is Rose here. She's one of the most dependable members of FAMA, and she works with Thrivent. Okay, we haven't, look, and then now who is this pretty lady?
I'm Nada. I'm a guest with Rose.
You're Nada?
Nada. Oh, Nada, okay. I go by Nada. My full name is Janada. I go by Nada to make it easier.
Okay, Janada, but Nada. Okay, Nada means nothing. We're gonna have to go with J. We're gonna have to go with J. Right, G, or J, or Jen. We're making up names. We're giving you your name. You don't tell us your name. We're gonna tell you. We're gonna tell you who you are, okay? All right? Okay, so Nada, good to have you here. And so one more time, everyone, it's the leverage that we want to build in the community. This is how the army of God is going to have to do it in this time. It's the leverage of relationship. It's the leverage of working the garden. If we don't do it, we will fail. We might as well forget it. Do not plan on fighting. Listen, and by the way, y'all, they are ready to fight for their position as well. We think that just we are. No, they are ready too. And they're ready in a big way. So you're going to have to use the leverage of relationship. Don't forget that. And don't use the old stuff that we would say, well, the reason why they don't is because they're like this. Don't do that either. Just matter of fact, if I were you, you want to impute worthy motives even to your adversary, your human adversaries. That their motive, they just don't know. What did our master say when he was on the cross? Father, forgive them. They don't know what they're doing. Okay? They're acting out of some impulse or some knowledge that they have that they don't know. They don't know what they're doing. And so, as believers, we should be following our master. These folks do not know what they are doing. There's no need for us to be hostile against them.
Jesus also says, make them one as we are one. The ones that are the children of God may have different views, or
yes,
make them one because there's strife. You knew
see, that's beautiful.
Strife between God's people.
Yes, I mean, all right, that's between God's people too. Isn't that something? Forget just the unbelievers. We're having a problem. We'll fight ourselves. There were folks wanting to lynch the vice president for not voting the way they were. He's a believer. He's one of us. He's a sincere believer. But because he didn't do what we wanted him to do in the Senate, we're messing around. They'll lynch him too. By the way, when you see the body of Christ unstable like that, it's a dangerous thing right there. It's dangerous because it lets you know that if the society were to collapse socially, you would have to not only watch out for your actual social enemies. You have to be aware of folks from the church. Y'all better wake up, boy. I tell you, this is some tough stuff. So we must engage. We must be heroes in our time. Okay? Go ahead.
On the garden, a few years ago, I started doing a garden and working full time. It was kind of hard. But what the thing is you're right, those weeds grow up fast.
Yes.
And so you've got to be on it. They don't care if you're
Every
busy.
day, every day.
The weeds don't care if you're
The
busy.
weeds don't care that you're doing something else. Okay, they got their own agenda. There's some things you can do, like you can put put sunflowers in. That'll help it a little bit.
Why?
There's certain things. The bees come in. I don't know, but it does. I don't know what the reason is, but it deters critters and the sunflowers. So I learned that, and I was able to get a garden. And there's different gardens. You got to know when to plant and what to plant and when. So that has to do with the community. There's a spring garden. There's a winter garden. I learned all this. And it's a lot of work, but when you said that, it just made me think, you got to be equipped, and you got to be knowledgeable, you got to know, and then you got to know where you're going, what you're planning, what you're doing, and when to do it. There's different times.
Wait a minute. So you're saying that it's important for us to know our community.
Yeah.
Is that important?
Yeah.
Because based on that knowledge, we'll know what to plant in that community. Because you
Yeah.
can't plant just anything anywhere. Is that right? I think this is where, y'all pardon me here. This is where I'm picking on the island folks this morning. Y'all bear with me. This is where island folks, they might keep us from dying to death if the economy collapses. That's why y'all gotta keep Francois and Sarah close, and Clara, y'all better stop playing games and start embracing them, because if the economy collapses, they're the only one that knows how to grow stuff. Okay? They're the only one that know how to work. Oh, you know how to do it too? She's from Jamaica. Yeah, so she's from Jamaica. See? Y'all get close. Y'all go up. Look at here. There's a reason why I keep y'all numbers in my phone book.
You're a farm girl.
Huh?
I'm a farm girl.
Go ahead.
It's one thing to grow stuff, but it's another thing to know what to do with the
What
stuff
do we do with what you grow?
You gotta know what to do with
You
it.
gotta know what you do with what you grow too.
If you don't know how to use it.
Right.
No,
Because
you
as
gotta
you were
take care
saying
of it.
about, as you were saying that, we could kiss their eye, but the thing about it, if I plant yucca and I plant something called tanya, and they don't know what is that. And I give it to them.
They don't know what to do with it.
They don't know.
You have to know what to do with it. So when you go in the
What
field
kind of vegetable?
and you encounter the people, you have to have God's spirit in you to tell you what to do with that person. But what you have to do with this person, you can't do with that person.
Y'all need to write that. You need to write that.
Okay, now that you've heard, and you have to admit, the ideas coming from these saints are absolutely remarkable. I was just blown away with their insights. Now listen, I'm going to give you an opportunity right here to go ahead and give us some feedback. What do you think about what was just communicated, both from myself as well as all of those saints that were in that room, reflecting on the garden model? We want to hear from you. Go ahead and leave us a message, leave us some feedback. I think it's just remarkable. Also, listen, we're going to be scheduling another survey day, an opportunity to get out there and learn the ground, learn this garden by assessing the felt needs within the community. We want you to be there, and we want you to listen. Create a list of people who you know are passionate about low-income communities, passionate about people that are ready to go out there and make a difference, okay? Write your list now. You'll be hearing from us as we announce the next survey date. You don't want to miss it. We need a bunch of people out there so that we can make the maximum impact in this area of Tampa, Florida. We love you, and I hope to hear from you. Feedback.